like, we're not going around this mountain anymore. I know that a lot of people have talked about issues to do with what does it cost, and that, you know, it's too expensive, and that women want free things. This is not about women. Remember, when we changed our constitution, one of the key principles that was enshrined in the constitution is the principle of inclusion and participation of the people. There are groups that have been marginalized, and women have been marginalized in elective public offices. And so we're saying, women and youth, by the way, women, youth, and persons with disabilities, and that's what the constitution wants to correct. So through the 2/3 gender principle, it is about bringing in previously marginalized groups. So it's not, if we have more women elected, then we will have to nominate the men, you know. But ideally, what we are saying is political parties should play an active role in ensuring that when they list members for elections, they list members that actually look like the face of Kenya. We have seen right now, the women who hold party seats in parliament, dual gender seats, whether it is in the governors or in Senate or members of parliament, they hold those seats in party strongholds. So it means that if a nomination in a party stronghold, you're very likely to win, because we've seen that people vote parties, you know. There are certain areas, you know, if I win this party nomination, I'm as good as home and dry. And that's what we are saying. List women in party strongholds, because when they are listed, they do get to win the seats. So that is what we are proposing. We are certain that this time around, that we are going to actually see the implementation. And now we are counting on Parliament, because we've done our work. We continue to do the back channeling. We met with the Right Honorable Prime Minister Raila Odinga. He committed himself 100%, and he has been a champion. Actually, throughout, every time the bills came into Parliament, he would even attend Parliament to make sure his members vote. So we know that now the highest level of political will is manifested. So we expect to see this bill pass. I think both majority and minority leader have already committed to it. So there's no reason. We don't see any reason why, but it's not over until it's over. And so talk to your member of Parliament. All of you, make sure when you meet your member of Parliament, you tell him, don't play games with that issue of 2/3. Pitisha your bill. Pitisha na upitisha haraka. That's now our role now on the outside. For the members in Parliament, we are sending you, Esther. You are going to be the first one to vote, but you must make sure that all the members vote in the affirmative. Thank you.
Correct.
Wow. Say wow. I told you she's at the center. You know, the backbone. And to cream it all, she says, it is not yet over until it is over. After saying all that, yeah? But the assurance thing is that we are getting it right this time round. Thank you, Madam Daisy Amdani. A round of applause for her. A round of applause for Mr. Sylvester Mbeyese. A round of applause for Secretary General Emeritus, Mr. Jan. A round of applause for Madam Denita Gatti, Honorable Denita Gatti. Just before I come to Honorable Esther Passaris, court orders. I know she has touched about it. Court orders. What is the implication of Madam Esther Passaris sitting in Parliament right now?
Thank you. There was a court order. It was actually not a court order. It was an advice to the president to dissolve Parliament. And it says, once you get that advice, you shall proceed to dissolve Parliament. But then in the intervening period, a court case is filed, And that court case gives us what we call a conservatory order. So there is an order barring the president to dissolve parliament pending hearing of a case. And that court order came, I think, in 2020, September 21st. And it was about 2 years to the election. And the motions in court, you understand, there was back and forth, and Maraga gave that order just before he left office. I think it was in September, and in a month or two, he was not there. So when the case was filed in court, there was an acting Chief Justice, that is Lady Justice Philomena Mwilu, and there are lawyers who argued that she had no power to empanel a bench of 5 judges, and that was the challenge that was there in court. Currently, and of course, that order, that empaneling of the bench was a challenge. Even some judges retired, like Justice, the name I forget, but even the presiding judge went to the Court of Appeal. So currently there is nothing going on at with regards to that case in the High Court. In the appeal, the case is not yet done, but in the appeal there was a stay of proceedings. So basically that order was defeated by what we call a fraction of time. Now, the current parliament, still unconstitutional, but operating. In my opinion, if somebody moved the Chief Justice again, the hands of the Chief Justice would be tied. So it's a challenge to the, what we call the omutatas, the public interest litigators. If you think you can approach the Chief Justice to make a similar order for the current parliament, that's fine. But for the sake of our work as the multi-sectoral working group, we are already proposing that the current parliament be put into order by nominating enough women to meet the 2/3. Otherwise, in my opinion, currently, if somebody approached the court, then parliament would still be declared unconstitutional. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Sylventa Mbithi. I wanted to bring that out so that you appreciate the various forums, the various institutions that we have to walk into so that we just make it right. Honorable Esther Passaris, you currently are a legislator in our 13th Parliament. Today is International Women's Day, and we are glad that we are having also this conversation today, appreciating the theme that the United Nations gave us for this year International Women's Day. Invest in women, accelerate progress. Are we having goodwill from your end this time round? Are we going to invest in women? Are we getting it right?
Wow. First of all, happy International Women's Day. And, you know, I'm glad I got here before Daisy started speaking, because she nails it. She's been walking this journey forever, and I really pray that it gets over within her lifetime, because she's really walked this journey for years. Even before I became a legislator, Daisy Amdani was there fighting and championing women's cause. Now, invest in women. I think our president has said that, at the G7 he spoke, he's got an advisor for gender issues in his office. He has said that it's one thing that he wants to make sure it's done. So the women governors came together, and they also said that all those governors who've served 2 terms, can they nominate a woman? Easier said than done. Because when you look at all of them, they don't have a woman as a deputy. So if we started off at that platform where they had deputies as women from the women gender, then we would say at least we have hope. So it's a tall order, it's a good prayer. The fact that we're unconstitutional is a challenge in itself. Everything that we've done in terms of legislation, I mean, it's really bad. So I think we should try and push the president, if he has the absolute goodwill, to right now figure out how can he make us constitutionally okay. Get all the political parties together, nominate the required women, and let's just get that right, so that whatever we are doing, we're constitutionally put together right. Because it is a worry, because we're passing legislation on a daily basis, we're making appeals. Can you imagine if everything is negated with just one court order? Because we had no mandate, right, to actually pass those laws, to actually approve those budgets. So we're sitting in a really bad place. So I think the goodwill that the president can show when he says that in his tenure, he's going to make sure, and his tenure, we don't want it to be his tenure, assuming he's going to get 2 terms. We want it to be done within this term. So why not sit, because they're sitting with my party leader, Raila Odinga, on a number of issues. Why not sit and agree? Let us all nominate women. The idea, you know, the idea of progressing a nation because you invest in women. I'm so sick and tired of women being looked at as an expenditure that should not happen, and an expense that the government should not bear. And when you look at this country, I mean, we've never had a woman president, all right? If we say that a lot has gone wrong, then we know the gender that has taken us there. It is not the women, all right? When we look at the county governments right now, the way they're performing, and look at the attacks that some of them go through, it's like that space is one where if you excel, you're going to be brought down. And you're going to be brought down not because you're doing something wrong, because you're a woman and we can't have you excel. You know, just yesterday I saw on our walls in Parliament that the parliamentarians, the ones who have CDF, majority of them being men, out of the 290 constituencies, only less than 10% are women. So 90% of those men have gone and given themselves 30 million shillings in the budget for their constituency development fund. Did they raise anything for the county women representatives? Absolutely not. Why? Because they feel that an empowered woman, right, is going to come back and take their job tomorrow. So they need to cripple you. So men don't have a fair race. When they want to race with a woman, they will cripple her so that she cannot make the finish line. So that's what we're up against. So does that mean that we have no recourse? We do. 50% or more of the voters are women. Why are we not able to reach those women voters and say, vote a woman, irrespective of party, irrespective of religion, irrespective of tribe, just vote for a woman. We have to try and make sure that the women stand out. But you know, I've also seen the expectation for women to deliver is so high. All right, they're not judged on the same pedestal as men. I don't know whether it stems from us being mothers. So the expectation is that we will nurture, we will solve all their problems. They've been raised by mothers. We're a woman, we're a leader. We should solve all the problems that they have. So the expectation from a woman is so high. And then the disrespect. I recently came to the realization that when you're a man and you age, you're called mzee. And mzee means a man of respect, a man of dignity, a man who is worthy of, you know, that title. But when you're a woman, you're called shosho, and it's almost done your time, you're no longer productive, disappear, you know. So it starts from us not respecting the woman, and that patriarchal role is very, very strong on women. So if we want women to stand, you know, I have heard women who call out other women for unjustified reasons. And the whole idea is it's so easy to pull her down, and it's never an attempt to pull him down. So for me, If this country's done a lot of things wrong, we've never had a woman at the helm. Let's start there. When it comes to governors, we only have 7. Thank God we've made it beyond 10%. Will we have more women governors in the next session, in the 14th Parliament? Will we have more counties elect governors that are women? It depends on us as women. So how many of us are willing to vote for a woman irrespective of whether she's in your political party, because parties make a big determinant, whether she's from your tribe, whether she's from your religion, right? How many of you are willing to do that? As long as you don't have a definite yes for that answer, we're not going to win the war, because the war on gender parity belongs and starts and ends with us as women. We have got to support each other, because the men laugh when they see us fighting amongst each other, and we do that so often, and it actually makes them say, oh, they're their one own worst enemy. So let's stand together irrespective of what. Let's have our fights outside, somewhere where the men are not listening, all right? And then stay focused on the agenda. I mean, really, we have a lot of work to do, but I really think the first thing we need to ask the president, your parliament, with all the laws you're passing, are unconstitutional. Somebody hire Tata on that one. Put us on the run so that we can get our gender parity in Parliament right now. There is no way Parliament should have more than 2/3 of one gender. So what are we doing? Let's start there. Let's say nominate, agree, nominate, let's get Parliament constitutionally right. Once we get it right, we have to endorse all those bills again. We have to bring them all again so that all those bills are safeguarded, that we've passed. Because even if it's not going to happen today, it's going to happen in the future. We know that Kenyans love the judiciary. We're litigators. We like to go to court for everything. So I think, Daisy, if you're going to have an audience, I think that's what we need to ask for. Let's constitute. We need Danita back there, right? We need her there. We need so many women who are really amazing. Wanja's here. We need so many women that can come in and help us in that space. And the only way we're going to do it is to say, you know what? Put your money where your mouth is. If you really are saying you're going to support women, why not nominate the women and get Parliament to be constitutionally well constituted? Thank you.
Thank you so much. A better round of applause for Madam Honorable Esther Passaris. Thank you. You've acknowledged and affirmed that so far the women that have been given elective position are performing exemplary well, right? So why not? I mean, why not? We have to get it right this time round. Before I move to the audience for a few questions that you'll have to that you may have to our panelists, we have engaged the 3 arms of the government in this discussion, and we have engaged them extensively. We have engaged the judiciary, we have engaged Parliament a number of times. But what in my mind lacked was the participation of the executive. But this time round, the president is the one that initiated this particular conversation by submitting into Parliament a memorandum, amongst them the realization, the actualization of the 2/3 gender principle. A round of applause for His Excellency Dr. William Samoei Ruto. We appreciate from wherever he is the goodwill from the executive, and we believe this time round, Honorable Esther Passaris, Honorable Denita Gatti, Madam Daisy Amdan, our international partners, Mr. Jan, our judiciary, our NGEC, our commission, you better you better come back with a positive report. From my end, we need to hold Parliament and Senate accountable. And I've always said, I've always given a formula, something called adopt an MP. That day we are going to Parliament to pass the 2/3 gender rule. All of you seated here, I want you to ensure you have adopted one MP. Okay? Are we together? Yes. Are you listening? Yes. So that on that day, umesikia wananunuliwanga mandazi. So amesema, on that day, you ensure your member of parliament is in parliament as early as 8 o'clock. He stays in parliament on his seat all through the voting session, the debate session, hadi umone anaenda huko kuchukua to put in their signature on that bill. Ensure your member does not sneak to go and sit at the public gallery. Are we together? Ensure they adopt, you don't adopt two, just adopt one. The 290. Yeah? Kila mtu adopt MP. Yeah? Ensure your member of parliament asiende kwa ile room ingine, akue tu hapo. Ukiona yuko, make a call. Okay? As the public, we also have the mandate to ensure that the members of parliament are held accountable. If we have done our bit with public participation, we have thrown it your way to parliament, we must ensure that this time round we are holding each other's hand and we are making it right for once and for all. So, Madam Esther Passaris, I am a voter in Langata Mgumoini ward. I adopt you today.
I stand adopted.
Well, thank you so much. We'll be taking a few questions from the audience. Before that, okay. Honorable Esther Passaris have some engagement. She's requesting that maybe you can shoot a question towards her direction. She'll be leaving before we wind up. So there's a mic that will be going around, so we can take 5 questions before we come to the next round. Time is not on our side. Kindly be brief. Shoot the question straight.
Thank you so much. My name is Miriam Opondo. I represent persons with disabilities at the United Democratic Alliance UDA party. I want to thank the panelists for the awesome presentation. So my attention is to Mheshimiwa Gati as well, who has done a good job when she was representing persons with disabilities. I've had issues to do with advocacy, gender top-up, 2/3 gender rule. But my suggestions was this: let us look at it in a nice way. Even as we talk about 2/3 and gender rule, let us consider women with disabilities before our disabilities, because we have 47 counties. And you see, we talk about women, but we forget women with disabilities. So from the 47 counties, look at the representation of women with disabilities as well. It's not enough. And these gender top-up positions at the Senate, we usually have 10 positions allocated for women. As we consider the women, remember that we have women with disabilities who also need those positions. And the gender top-up plus the 2/3 gender rule, we as women with disabilities should also be there as well, because we are first women before our disabilities. So that is my suggestion, that the Senate slots, the gender top-up positions, even in the county assemblies, those slots can also have women with disabilities. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. My name is Wanjiko Thega. I'm a young woman who's very active in politics. I ran for office in Kiambu County. My question goes to Daisy. You have been this journey, as Honorable Pasaris has remarked, and you've all seen your great contribution towards women in Kenya. How do you feel about this time round, this attempt? Honestly, how do you feel about this? Thank you.
Thank you very much. My question is directed towards Daisy. Thank you, Daisy. So I was part of the women who came to Kenya National Library to present the memo, and you are aware of that. I've not seen the final report, but I am optimistic that some of our issues are captured. So my questions are two. This week, the president has been so optimistic about women issues. I saw him at G7, very nice. How do we capture the spirit of the moment? Because some of these things could be short-lived, and maybe we might have other interesting top political issues in the country that might take away the attention from the 2/3, for example. There are robust conversations around the delimitation of boundaries, and that's where we are headed next. So how do we capture this optimism? Because in my view, it's short-lived. The other issue is there are concerns that there is the NADCO report that was presented to the houses, and according to what we, do I call myself Mama Mboga, what we Mama Mbogas are hearing is that the aspect of 2/3 gender role was left to the multi-sectoral committee. Now, it is said that the NADCO report was presented before Bunge without the aspect of 2/3. And now you have the report that you have Metoa. My question is, have you aligned the 2/3? Has it aligned with the multi-sector, with the NADCO? And what are the risks around the 2/3 report being presented as a standalone proposal vis-a-vis being part of the NADCO report? But otherwise, good work with the multi-sectoral committee, but I am a bit pessimistic about celebration now. We shall celebrate when we get to Canaan. Thank you.
I am Chepkoech Toet, and thank you guys, especially Daisy, for all the work that you have done. And Salma, it is very timely that you said adopt an MP, because we know our honorable member for Adopt a Light, so it is in order. He will whip them into being adopted. So my question is to Honorable Gati and Pasaris, because you people have come from political parties, and we know that the major issues begin from political parties. That is where the root of all evil is, if I may put it like that. Because it is very easy for us to say we are going to take a list to IBC that is compliant. But as we know, our political parties, they are also very cunning. So they will put women where they don't care whether they win or lose the seat. Because what IBC wants is a list that is fully compliant. So how do we hold the political parties accountable to ensure that they not only give the tickets to women where they are not strong, but give it to women also in their strongholds, so that we realize the numbers. And then the other thing is, where does the buck stop? Because when the list goes to IBC and it's not that compliant, they say, what can we do? You understand? So should we bring ORPP into this conversation to say, you should whip these political parties? If they don't comply, then don't give the political parties fund. It is that simple. Because if political parties know they are going to lose money, they will get in line.
Thank you very much. Do we have two more? I can give any question directed to Honorable Pasaris?
Okay, I have one.
Pasaris?
Yeah.
Yeah, kindly.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm Ogona Srikal, the Chief Whip of...
You guys can't hear. Speaker.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm Ogona Srikal, the Chief Whip, Youth Nairobi, Youth Parliament. Okay, maybe have a little bit of a solution than a question. Okay, what I mean is this. Why can't we reduce the number of counties into regions? Because the counties that we have right now, they are not solving what we call the the tribalistic things, because if you can reduce them to what we call the provinces, so those provinces can become counties, then the revenue that we use to pay those MPs, those governors, those women reps, we can use them to nominate or create position for women in parliament or in any other organization. Then another thing, the MPs, maybe to offer a solution to that, maybe the parliament, the political parties like the ODM or any other political party like UD or any other one, we can identify some of the regions or some of the constituencies where we have women who are strong in those areas. Then we give them direct ticket to them. Give them direct ticket, because there are some regions that once you get a ticket for ODM, you'll automatically win. If you get a ticket for UDA, you'll automatically win. So why can't we encourage these political parties to adopt that kind of thing? They should not favor men. And again, to advise to the women, let us love each other. You are the people that we don't vote in our women candidate. We don't love ourselves. So can we just generate the love for ourselves? Then to the political parties. In Kenya, we have several political parties, almost 98 political parties, and around 48 waiting to be registered. So these political parties, how many are women-frontiered political parties? Can we give them some opportunity, or maybe merge some political parties under one woman leader and ensure that things run well? Or maybe let us have also the MPs, they have their deputies as women with the same power. If we cannot achieve the two-third gender rule, let us have MP, all the 290 constituencies, they have their assistants as women, automatic.
Thank you.
So thank you very much.
Thank you, Gona. Circle. Mateo. We had a hand raised up from a student there. Kindly, we must also nurture the attitude of, just stand up, please. These are the leaders of today, not our future leaders. So we must give them this space, we must give them this opportunity, and we must encourage them to do what they want to do. Yes, your name, please, which school, and your question.
My name is Kiprotich Kimaron, Alliance High School, and my question, of course, goes to my county woman representative, Madam Esther Pasaris. Now, we've spoken a great deal about women in the political space, and a lot of people were emphatic about how women are going to be nominated into parliament. But my concern was that, is it the number of women who are represented in parliament that is the issue, or it's the whole narrative around women in the political space? Because unfortunately, in the most recent election, Kenyans failed to see the merit that was there in women contestants and chose to go with male candidates, people who are assumed to be, or at least dictated by our African principles and cultures, who are assumed to be leaders in the society. Now, my question was, since you stated that women hold a very strong majority in terms of voters, is the motive force behind this bill political or good? Is it goodwill or political will? What is to say maybe those who are at the forefront of this bill are not doing so in order to secure women as a political bloc, in order to use them for the same reasons that they did a long time ago? And my other question was, if that is the case, how do you beat a system that is against you, where we have a parliament headed by men, an executive headed by a man, who is deputized by a man, and yet you want to create a revolution where women are equitably represented? So therefore, how can we secure goodwill in this push, and how can we make sure that we don't bypass gender as a qualification, where being a man is a qualification in itself? That was my question. Thank you so much for your time.
Wow. I mean, wow. A better round of applause. Come here. Come. Yeah, Honorable Pasares is telling me now you know why he's in alliance. But being in alliance is just not being in alliance. You must be adopted by Honorable Esther Passaris. Leo, lunch, juu yake. Sit here next to her. Just sit. When she leaves, live with her. Whatever you do, that's not. Honorable Passaris, kindly respond to the question that the young gentleman has raised.
Wow, thank you. I can see you're very enlightened. What I can say is, you know, we come from a patriarchal society where women were only seen as bring forth the next generation, cook and clean home, right? We're still doing that, but we are doing something more. We feel that we can stand up to be counted. A lot of women become widows. A lot of women end up in marriages that don't work, and women need to feel independent. And this is, you know, it started in the first International Women's Day kind of celebration started in 1909. We've still got a long way to go. The budget needed for gender parity is over 350 billion deficit. So we're actually talking about a male-dominated world that doesn't prioritize women in leadership. So what we have to do is celebrate the gains. The fact that we have 47 women that come into Parliament elected through the Constitution provision for women's seats, special women's seats, that in itself was a win. All right. The fact that we have a Chief Justice who's a woman, that's a win. The fact that we had a woman, Charity Ngilu, run for president, that's a win. We had Martha Karua run for president, that's a win, right? But we haven't, you know, we've broken the ceiling, but we still got many more to break, all right? So for me, we have to celebrate. So it starts with you going home as a young boy and really appreciating mom. Appreciating your sisters, appreciating your cousin sisters, appreciating your aunties, that they can be on the table and have a discussion with you, not on the menu to be eaten. Right? So today we still are fighting for women's rights in terms of FGM. That was a practice to actually pull down women, all right? To bring them down in a manner that they could be dominated. So we're trying as a country to push that away. Reproductive health rights for women, you know, the right of choice, the right to decide how many children you want. We've got a long, long journey. But you know what? The fact that we're sitting here and having this discussion, the fact that the president is talking gender, all right, and gender in favor of women, the fact that he has an advisor on women affairs, the fact that we have you who is enlightened to see, hey, there is a problem here. Is it the men who are going to prevent us? You know what? The men, we need their assistance. We need he for she's. And you are now appointed as a he for she. You are going to be championing everything to do with women and women's rights, all right? And you know, you will find that there's certain things that are happening that you never saw that you had a role to play. You know, I mean, I've seen children who come from families where the husband or the father is bettering the wife, and they don't do anything, and then when they go into their own households, they do that. So you can be a voice for women, and we need a lot of you. You can even start a club in Alliance He for She, all right? Because we need you to start this young, all right? One day you might be in that political space. Daisy might still be fighting for our rights, and you will be the one to give it to us. But we really, with the electorate, the 50% women, that is the first battle we have to win, where a woman sees a woman as a potentially good leader, all right? Now, we don't want to be given the position just because we're women. We want to be given the position because we are capable, right? But right now we are marginalized. Imagine a woman in Nairobi, my county, Nairobi. If we didn't have the woman representative seat, which put me forward, we only had Beatrice Alachi as the MP for Dagoretti North who came in. In the last parliament, we had Mercy of Kasarani. One woman out of 17. In the Nairobi County, 85 seats. We only had 5 women in the last county. In this county, we dropped to 3 women elected. So majority are nominated. Now, when they're nominated, our politics is such that people want to see, what have you done for me lately, which needs a budget. Most of the men who sit in these counties or in the parliament do not want the nominated women to be given any money for any project. We as women reps accidentally came across a fund, right, which was meant for a rerun, which was not used, and we've struggled to get it from 2 billion to 3. So all I want to say, it's a tough journey, but when we have young brains like you standing up and articulating what seems to be an unfair practice against women, we're not saying that, what we're saying is treat us as equal partners, because we are equal partners, all right? The Bible says about a woman being a helper. I wish the men would understand that to get their lives right, we have a lot of men with challenges right now, right? It's because of the male figure absconding his duties of parenting. So they've left it completely to the woman. So I feel when we come together, both genders, and appreciate each other and work together, there was Eve and Adam. Why? They have to work together to achieve something. And what we can achieve for our families, for our communities, for our countries, we have to do it together. But we can't do it together when you're telling the woman, sit, stand, speak when you're spoken to, all right? Go cook, go make babies, you have no role to play. All right? So we need to be able to be seen as equal partners. Respect me, I respect you, it's mutual, right? Listen to me, I listen to you, it's mutual, all right? Let's plan together, let's achieve together, let's agree to have differences, but ultimately we work for the good of society. And the good of society requires that men and women come together for the good of the nation. And you're my she. Welcome into the club.
Thank you very much, Honorable Esther Passaris. I believe your question have been answered to the standard of your satisfaction. When you leave, don't let her go. Walk out with her, because that is the order of this honorable house. Miss Daisy, I'm done. A round of applause as she walks out. Yes, we must ensure that the passion that these young people have been actualized. By the action of just that young man walking out with that honorable member, you just don't know the impact and what it will create for his future. So thank you so much for that, young gentleman. Miss Daisy, I'm done. 1 million plus questions your way. Welcome.
Thank you, Salma. Let me say something before I go into answering the questions that were directed at me. I think it's important for us to remember that the law is a tool for social change. And the reason why we gave ourselves a new constitution is because we realized the old constitutional order was not working. And so when we gave ourselves a new constitutional framework, we did so putting in place one that enshrines the principles of inclusion of all, including previously marginalized groups, that is women, youth, persons with disabilities, and other minorities. When you look at things like devolution is an inclusion principle. We know that once upon a time in this country, there are places that had been neglected. The government operated with a very light touch. But today, because of devolution, they have county governments that have power, authority, and resources to bring about development instead of waiting for the national government. So likewise, the 2/3 gender principle, it's not about women. It's an inclusion principle. It's about the participation of women and men in governance. So it's important to say that. Wanja, thank you for your views. And I think if you listened to the proposals that we have made in our report, we captured your views. One, with regards to the Elections and Political Parties Act, we have said that when the lists for top-up, particularly at the county level, and I think this also goes to the lady also with disabilities who also asked about what about women with disabilities and persons with disabilities, because we know right now, I think we have 21 counties where persons with disabilities are not represented, and that's because of the way the lists are formed. So one of the proposals that we have made is that the list should start with the persons with disabilities, so that they don't argue that there is no space for those persons with disabilities. So those are some of the recommendations that we've made. We've also made the recommendation that in nominations for political parties at both the Senate and National Assembly, that in as far as possible, because you have the nominations are done according to the number of seats won by a party, in proportion to the number of seats won by a party. So there are those parties that can actually nominate quite a few members, and we are saying for those parties that have opportunity to list several members, they must ensure that we see the diversity of women. We want to see young women, we want to see women with disabilities, we want to see ethnic minorities, so that those lists are diverse. But I think it is also important and incumbent upon us to remember that we also have active roles to play in our political parties, because we have leagues within political parties. There's the Women's League, there's the Youth League, there's the Disability League. Within your political parties, you must be active and push for your political parties to adhere to those principles, because we've seen that for the most part, when it comes now to active politics, those leagues tend to be just tokens. You find that these groups sit in the national governing councils of political parties. So you must also assert your authority. I mean, we must make sure that political parties observe the rule of law, and so you should make noise inside there. So those are provisions that we have made. Our report is in the public domain, so I don't know why you are saying you have not seen our report, so I will share it with you. I have your email. I will share with you the copies of the report. Now, it is important to understand, because I know that there has been some misconception that the 2/3 was left behind. That is not true. When we engaged, remember, when the National Dialogue Committee was put in place, they said that they were going to recognize statutory bodies that were in place. And because we had concurrent mandate with them, and the 2/3 was an issue that had been listed, they allowed us to continue with our mandate and to deliver to them that framework, right? And it is actually in the NADCO report where they actually say that they did, because we engaged with them and we gave them our preliminary findings. But we could not give a final report because we had not carried out public participation. And by the time their term was coming to an end, because remember the National Dialogue Committee had a very short time frame. I think they had 90 days within which to carry out their mandate, and it was extended by another 30 days. Ours was a 6-month mandate. And so we had not carried out public participation. So we were allowed to continue with our work, which we did. In fact, we did as much as possible to fast track the work. And we know the challenges that we were facing towards the end of the year with the adverse weather conditions. But we did finalize our report. And we brought it to Parliament. It was delivered to Parliament the second week after Parliament convened. And the Speaker tabled our report and recognized and even reiterated that it was part of the national dialogue. When we met with the Right Honorable Prime Minister Raila Odinga, he reiterated the same. When we met with Kalonzo Musyoka, he also reiterated the same. And if you listened to the president yesterday, he said the same. He said the 2/3 is an integral part of the National Dialogue Committee report. So there's no fear. It is there. The instruments are there. The work, we did all the work. We did the report and we delivered the instruments and the proposals. So they have the entire framework. So now it is in the hands of Parliament. And so the people that we need to watch are Parliament, and we need to focus our energy on Parliament to make sure that Parliament does the right thing. The President has said that he is going to push and that, it's a done deal. The majority leader has said so. The minority leader has said so. But, they have said many things before and they don't do them. So we will only believe when we see imepitishwa. Ikipitishwa tutasema basi wamefanya. But until then, we will just continue to encourage them along the way. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Honorable Daisy. We are time constrained, so I believe there's no any other question unless it is very, 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 very extremely burning. Papa wa Roma Ford Kenya. It's burning. Okay. Just that one. Before I just wind up, I give it to... Yes, your question, please. We have to appreciate the conversation on he for she. Otherwise, we'll be walking alone.
Thank you very much. My names are Dixon Okwara, Organizing Secretary for the Kenya Nairobi County. I have seen you are championing for women in leadership. And before I ask any question, I would like to refer you to the Word of God before you continue championing for women leadership, based on 1 Timothy chapter 2, from verse 11 to 13. Women should learn in silence and humility. I do not allow them to teach or to have authority over men. They must keep quiet.
Order.
For Adam was created first,
Order.
and then Eve.
Order.
Are we going to oppose the word of God? Because at the moment we oppose it, we will not. We shall be against the rules of God.
Yes,
that is why I said it is burning.
I'm the moderator of this session, and I told you unless it is burning, so kindly sit.
It was burning.
It was in my mind. It wasn't burning. Appreciating the journey we've been walking, appreciating that you've been sitting in this session from when it started, appreciating really.
Salma, I want to respond to that. I want to respond.
I don't know if I should give my panelists to respond.
Yes, I want to respond.
Kindly, welcome.
Now, this is where you see misinterpretation of scripture. By the way, I am a student of Bible study. I am a Bible scholar. Yes. So I want to tell you this, by the way, because that was one of the questions that I sought to answer in my thesis. What does the Bible say about women? And are women supposed to be subservient to men? That was the question that I sought to answer. What does the Bible say about women? Now, it is important to put things in context, yes? Contextually. Because in what setting was Paul actually giving that? Because it was about the teaching in the sanctuary. That is number one, okay? This is how religion is misused to say that the place of women is under the feet of men. When you say women, wives, submit to your husbands. Yes, marriage is an institution, by the way. But you must remember that not all men are our husbands. We are not the wives of every man. It says wives, not women. It is not about women submitting to men. Actually, in the beginning, let us go to the beginning. In the book of Genesis, what does it say? That Yahweh created them. He said, let us make man. And let me say this. Man, the word man, the original meaning of the word man means the cognitive thinker. The cognitive thinker. But because language has evolved over the years, man has now been made to denote male. But man actually means the cognitive thinker. And he said, let us make the cognitive thinker in our image and likeness. And the Bible tells us that he made them male and female. Okay? So, that distinction, it is important. He also went on to say that it is not good for man to be alone. And I will make him a helper comparable to himself. Okay? The only other person that we see called a helper in the scriptures is the Holy Spirit, who has come as a helper to us, to help us in achieving our goals of salvation. So Yahweh created us equal. Men and women are created equal. They're created different, and we have different roles, but we are equal in terms of humanity. So if it is in your home, you can call for your wife to be submitted to you, but we are not your wives. So you can't ask for all women to be submitted to you.
Thank you.
So I think that is an important distinction to make.
Thank you, Honorable Daisy. I'm done. And then in the spirit of adopting someone, so that this conversation can go on and that gentleman can be enlightened. Excuse me, sir. Just come. For Kenya. You know, Papa Waroma is, a very close friend. Have a seat here. Yes. When Daisy Daniel will be walking out of this session, walk out with her. She has done so much. You will learn so much and appreciate so much. So as we wind up, your closing remarks, of course I'm coming to you, Honorable Denita Gatti, your closing remarks, Sylveta Mbilithi.
No, sorry.
Okay. I really needed to address the student from Alliance, but he left. So I will talk to the students that are here, or the question that was posed by the student about the electorate refused to vote for the woman. And the data from IEBC shows that the number of candidates that are in the ballot, the same percentage of men make it with the women. It's just that women are not on the ballot. 15% of all candidates from all political parties, or be it independent or whatever, from political parties, 15% make it to be elected. So if there are 9,000, so because men are in the ballot, it is men that are chosen. Majority that are men on the ballot, it's the men that are chosen. And 15% of women that are given that opportunity, they also make it. So the conclusion is, when you give women and men opportunity, the electorate does not discriminate. It is the political party that discriminates by not giving them the ticket. So if you give them the ticket, you will be shocked. There will be no discrimination from them. My closing remark, I think I appreciate this forum and the conversation. We should have more of these sessions, and I believe the development partners that are here should hear this. They facilitate this conversation. This is one, and I believe it's going to be aired maybe in the let us cascade this conversation beyond the city. Let us go to the counties, to every level, so that we can have this conversation and we enlighten the public about the, of the 5 issues that are being debated in Parliament, the NADCO issues. Only the 2/3 gender principle is a constitutional requirement. The rest, there are things that they want to introduce into the law. So this is one issue that is, in my opinion, is also misplaced in the conversation, because we are lobbying to change the law to include some of these things like leader of opposition. That position is not in the law, but we want to bring it into the law. But we are arguing about a provision in the law. I think we should think about it. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sylvester. You have talked about getting it right. What are the priorities? Thank you, and it was a pleasure having you for this session. Mr. John, what is our take-home? What is your advice? What is the way forward? And your closing remarks. Thank you.
Well, thank you also for having had the opportunity to be part in this very, very interesting debate and dialogue. And I think I feel so inspired by some of you sitting here in the panel, because you are so forced with the engagement and the power that is really needed to bring this forward, and with all the things that you fight with. So this is and all of you sitting here in the audience, look at these panelists here and see them as role models. Do go help support them, do something together to move this agenda forward, because this is what you need. And I think, as it has been stated, hold the parties accountable for not taking the right steps if they don't do so. Please make it a debate within the parties and with the parties, that they nominate, that they make an inclusive culture, whether it's gender, whether it's disabilities, whether it's religious issues. Held them accountable, so that you will have a party culture where it's much more equality that is within the parties. And today it's International Women's Day, and we have this debate, but this debate is not only going to be held one day in a year, it's going to be held 365 days in a year, because this is an agenda which is so important, and it can only be moved forward when you do it every day until you reach the goal. And I have to say, coming from a country which 100 years ago today appointed the first female minister in a parliament in the world, we are not over yet. So it's a long debate. It's a long fight to come to gender equality and equality in other areas. But we can only do one thing: is debate, stand up, go and do some work around this, and really follow the role models. Then we will go and break a lot of glass ceilings, which is needed. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and we must appreciate the gender debate is not just a gender debate. It is a human rights issue, and you must always appreciate that. So, I don't know, Honorable Daisy, let me allow Honorable Denita Gatti to go in first, and then you'll come in with your final closing remarks. Kindly, Karibu.
Thank you. I'll be very brief. We are inspiring inclusion. That is our theme. and for me, as a feminist who champion, especially disability, you know very well that this word inclusion is usually very comfortable. You know, people are comfortable with this word inclusion until it reaches disability. In my experience, even on the floor of the House, even in Parliament, I've seen it, and it is everywhere. We have reached a point, even as a country or as a world, where we agree that other diversities are okay, but disability is not okay. This is something that, for me, we must change. And that is why when we are talking about her question, is how do we make sure that when we are talking about Parliament, how inclusive should Parliament be? And an inclusive Parliament means we see lots of Miriam there, lots of, everybody. And especially on this issue of disability. We have had political parties that are very insensitive to disability. Disabled people are just there just as flowers, we must strengthen those disability leagues. those disability leagues are the ones that actually push persons with disabilities mbele, so that you're not there as a disabled person in a political party to just sit and add numbers and serve tea. You know, that's usually what happens in parties. But again, what she was saying, lastly, we have had to take this discussion further with even the ORPP, with IEBC, to tell IEBC that political parties that do not comply with the word inclusion, especially of marginalized and persons, should not even get the political parties funding. What is the point of IEBC or ORPP giving political party funding to political parties that have no disabled people? What is the point? And when we were talking, we were saying the president has quickly taken a stand on this issue of gender. That when next time, when the president becomes the president, the deputy president is a woman. Who tells the president that women cannot gang up and be the president, then the men become vice? You know, we might even reach that point. But for the president to pronounce himself like that is a clear indication of what we are discussing, that he has the gender aspect close. And it's not only the president. Baba has been on top of this game. Baba, he has been on top of this gender issue for so long. And before he goes to the AU, we will make sure that he pronounces himself on this issue of 2/3, so that we are able to say, where are we at as a country, where are we at as women, and where are we at as persons with, and as women with disabilities. My friend Daisy said, if things stay the way they are now, that we are going to nominate, we are going to ask